We are unmuted and we are on YouTube,
Okay.
Goal.
but we're not starting.
Be on YouTube.
Unless you
We
want to
still have a
stop.
few minutes.
Hey,
Well-
Roger, did you, these aspects that are in these components.
You can't
did
talk
draft
about anything
those?
yet.
These are your words, correct? And this letter.
We can't talk about meeting stuff yet.
I'm gonna sit here quietly.
I'm
and
sorry.
observe things and clean my glasses. I have a spot.
I'm sorry, it's just if it's meeting related,
No,
right?
it is, yeah.
You can talk about the weather, you can talk about other things. You gotta wait toward the
Hey,
meeting.
had I cornered him downstairs?
Yes.
Yes. But now you're on display.
Yeah, and on YouTube. This is Shelley.
That's Shelley.
Hi, Shelley. I'm Roger.
Hi.
You can
Hi,
sit
Shelley.
wherever you want.
Yes,
No back row person.
there you are.
One of the great things about the back row is you can spread your chair out more easily.
Yes, it's true.
I used to sit on that row all the time.
Okay,
Hold on.
Okay, well, yeah.
Cameron, can you hear us? Or can people at remote hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
It's still 3:49. Do we have to wait till 3:50?
Nope.
okay, I'd like to call,
Earlier. It's not later.
I would like to call to order public hearing
That's interesting.
on the proposed April amendments to the 2024 budget. And for anyone here or online who would like to make any comments about that, that would be, this is the time to do
Do we actually have a quorum? Yes, we do.
it. We do.
Yeah, perfect. I just was making sure.
Yeah.
Great.
All right,
We have to keep the public hearing open for the full time on the.
we do.
We do. That is,
Those are the rules.
those are the rules.
All right.
So somebody, it might be a long, quiet 10 minutes.
It
but
might be.
That's the way these things work.
Okay. So the public hearing remains open for those.
For 5 minutes, actually.
Oh, yeah, I did it that's right.
Oh, so we can adjourn at
We
3:55.
can.
Tell me not to make comments before the meeting starts.
Oh, Paul here.
Roger.
How are you?
Hi, Ross. How are you?
Did you, oh my goodness.
Did you come for public comment?
Yeah, when I called or.
You can be first up if you like.
Yes.
Are you making a public comment on the proposed April amendments for the FY 24 budget or something else?
No, deep powder house.
Okay, great, then we'll.
Something else.
That'll be,
That's
Next.
4, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's applicable. So, all right, so we have until 55 after the hour to hold open the public hearing.
So I did a walk up Baldy and then went down to the volleyball side, which I've never done, which is kind of cool, down back in the snow.
Living the dream.
Down to, into Middle Fork or
What's
Middle
that?
Basin or?
Yeah, I mean, just walking up like you're gonna go to Baldy Chutes from Sugarloaf Pass, and then I just about after that first steep spot, there's those rollers off to the left, because they weren't tracked, and it was nice, it was good.
Yeah, we call that an enclosure,
Well,
right?
I mean,
Well,
Well, yeah.
oh, this Field of Glory is on North
Oh.
Baldy.
oh, is that what it's called?
Well, so on North Baldy, looking up from the highway, those two open fields are called Field of Glory. But then on the backside of Baldy, above Baldy Express
Okay,
into Mineral Basin,
yeah,
that's called Living the Dream.
oh, then yeah, that's what I did today.
That's pretty awesome.
There's one other track over there, and
Very aesthetic, with the rollover.
yeah, and it's not super rocky, like, you know, the paranoia of like striking one of those snowbird rocks that stick out all over the place. I wasn't super nervous about my K2 Waybacks going in there.
Excellent.
I was just filling time.
Do we have any
Oh, no, that's-
attendees that are even participating in the meeting yet?
We have one.
Live the dream, that's the name of that, okay,
Yeah.
that's
Good.
good.
I mean, the shillings to just come in.
I'm gonna do, while we don't have any business, I'm going to do something quick. Got home yesterday, I'm leaving tomorrow.
Where are you going? If you don't mind.
I was in North Carolina and then I'm going to Florida tomorrow to Air Force Special Operations Command for 3 days.
That sounds casual.
I have to wear a black tie one night and then a suit the other night. It's like a criminal offense.
I hope that
In Palm Beach.
they pay extra for that.
And I had to pay to go. So my question is, you know, I got paid to do this other thing. I thought that you should, this last weekend in North Carolina.
House. Down. States, all that's.
Oh, that's the other, Molly, can you?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Molly, can you send it to JD?
So you guys going back to Burbank this weekend?
Yeah, no, we're going to that. St. George for a
I sent it.
Utah League of Cities and Towns
Molly,
conference.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
it comes
there
from
will fly.
Zoom though.
Continue flying.
So you'll fly down to St. George.
Get back on the plane and
No, you don't.
We saw you running up the Summer Road in your machine yesterday afternoon around 12:30.
Yeah, I sent it right before that.
Well, it was your bid, that's because
it's the,
yours has just that certain faded color to it that makes it
No.
stand out.
no, ours is the color we were,
Is it?
yeah.
So everybody does it.
Hey, that was not you, it's the other small one, there's another small one like
Yeah,
yours.
there's another, probably belongs to,
It's not
the
getting.
Rossi family in the next door house.
Okay.
From my email to him.
Okay, let's see, I have 354.
We have.
So you
Oh.
have something that she.
She implied to me she was waiting to comment during the, not the public hearing, but I couldn't,
Probably gonna comment during the citizen input.
that's what she communicated to me before.
You familiar with her? Have you seen her before?
She's
But
going
maybe
to
she
show
changed
up
her
a lot.
mind, so I'm gonna bring her over just in case she.
An outspoken
changed her mind.
citizen.
Yeah, an outspoken citizen.
Not as.
Margaret, did you have a comment to make now?
Sorry, my question was that we are identified who we are, who qualifies for a quorum because we only see 2 council members. That was the only thing.
Oh, well, we
Okay.
have Elise online, so,
I'm here.
yeah, so that we do have a
The other
quorum.
one directly from her. Can you check her junk? They sent, you should have gotten it yesterday.
So I see it at 3:56, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I move that we adjourn the hearing.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Public hearing is adjourned, and in 4 minutes, we'll start the regular.
Okay, here, hold on, I'm working with Molly now. And we try and seven.
So around that west side of that same bowl. Is
What, skiers, right?
Yeah, skiers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't even have to go to the summit of Bali, you can drop into that, what is that one?
It's-
Well, like behind the
Oh,
snowbird
no.
approach to the top of Baldy.
He's having-
So like, you know, there's the regular North Baldy hike and then traverse.
But did you get the one?
And then when the chutes are open and the access is open, you boot up from there.
Okay.
Like back into Mineral Basin from over here is the Chamonix chutes. Sort of
Yeah.
steep rock line.
Yeah, but the ones further to the left, skier left.
I don't know if there's anything,
Name?
I don't know what, there probably is a name for stuff in between living the dream and Chamonix chutes, but I don't know, I've skied the Chamonix chutes a couple times, but.
Yeah, that's where they ran the speed goat race course up the mountain last season.
Up the Chamonix chutes?
No, between the two.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And it was a bit of a bummer because it really tore up it really tore it
I'm
up.
surprised they still do that. I remember when they started doing that, I remember that before they did it.
It's better than the archery competition, which really tracked up everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my opinion, as a citizen, not a council member.
Private land and public lands, for multiple use, I guess, but yeah, the archery competitions.
So, oh, John's here too.
And Roger, have we discussed Chelsea Philippi from the Forest Service and her
intend to join.
Okay, we're not. I was looking for her and I didn't see her.
Yes, so she is gonna join remotely and she asked if she could join later in the meeting.
Okay, we can reorganize.
So I think she asked to join.
So we'll put Shelley on. Which you're okay with that, I presume?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also for information, Roger, Dave Abraham, may be able to join
Okay,
and he got a Zoom link, so.
all right.
Did I miss the first meeting?
You missed the first meeting. It was a public hearing and there were no public comments.
Cool, sorry, I've been having a technical problem here today, but seems to be resolved.
Okay, good.
Well, it was really exciting. You missed a lot.
Yeah, no, you did.
First meeting?
Yeah, zero comments, but we did talk about Mineral Basin skiing a little bit.
Nice.
Right on,
Right, anyway.
right on topic.
My kid called me yesterday, said it was the best day ever at Alta.
Really? Huh,
That's pretty good.
yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's the best day ever.
That's a fewer number of ski days than you have.
Yes.
I said, were you out there milking giraffes?
Man, I was not looking at any grass.
Driving the bus, I like that.
Hopefully have an answer on them. And I heard about it off and on.
Awesome.
Okay, I see it as 4 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time on Wednesday, April 10th, and I would like to call the meeting of the Alta Town Council to order. And we will start with citizen input. And we have somebody on site.
My first,
Paul?
I'll take it.
Bill.
For people that don't know me, I'm Paul Huber from the Powder House. This year, we're celebrating our 70th year of being in business. We are the oldest ski shop in Utah. I'd love to tell you that we're the strongest, but we're the oldest ski shop. Second generation running it. It's fallen upon the Powder House. It's 70th year that we're in an economic hardship. And what, nobody's fault, an economic hardship, and it's nobody's fault. The ski lift company found out that they own parking and they took that, and then the Alta Lodge said, well, wait a minute, we own all this parking. So we lost 20-minute parking, probably around 11 spots at the top of the ramp that people could come shop at our store and buy ski boots. So as the bills go up and the road tow bill goes up and the price of everything goes up, the Powder House total numbers are going down. So for working there for 40 years and being 60 years old and growing up in the town of Alta, you know, I feel like it's my job to shore up that Powder House for the future. So I want to talk a little bit about the overlay zone. You know I haven't been at town councils for the last 15 years, but my first 25 years, I was on a thing called the Board of Adjustments. I gave out variances to someone like Roger that wanted to build a nice house. We kind of looked at it as, this is not Sandy or Deer Valley. We have avalanche paths everywhere that are gonna hold down the building in here. And so during that time of the overlay zone, these buildings and businesses here built this town. We paid extra money every month for the sewer line to come to the town of Alta. We also paid for the gas line. Every month we had a bill for gas, but then we had an extra bill on top of that. And ours wasn't that big. I'm sure ski lifts was fairly large. I'm sure the lodges were very large. So the overlay zone was kind of set up to say, hey, let's make sure they can keep up with economic times. So what's come to my attention is that after 56 years of the Powder House and the location it's in, and having residential and retail as our zoning, somehow in 21, what I wasn't notified is the zoning's changed for me. And I'm sure I'm grandfathered in. I mean, the apartments, you know, the actual town, the group right here, when it incorporated, the town rented one of the apartments for the town building. A guy named Bob Smith. This sounds like a normal name, right? That's just a normal name. In the ski industry, he started Smith Goggles on top of the ski shop. So it's a place we've always rented and been part of that. And I'm sure there's a grandfather law that says, okay, like the photo house, powder house fits inside this box. But I feel like it's my job to shore it up for the next 70 years and make it so it makes tax dollars for the town and also supports the employees that I have in my system. So I hear a lot of this unconforming and, you know, there's probably 3 that are at the top of the list, you know, photo house, shower shack, powder house. But the church that's down there, my mom's the one that got that piece of land after the Lady of Snow was wiped out by a wet slide. She obtained that. She had church right here for 15 years. Guy named Ono and I did a fundraiser and raised just south of 100 grand to help build that church with the church. Diocese came in and helped pitched in to get that community center up and going. But unconforming, there's a group of us down there. And after 24 years of working on the 105 and standing up there, which I hope all of you get to do that because it's the best view in Alta, shooting 20,000 rounds across here, there's only so many places that can be built. And one of the jewels is right where the powder house is. 70 years we've been there, never been hit by an avalanche. Right behind the town building or central or whatever you call that building is a 130-year-old subalpine firs. That little pocket, when you stand on that ridge, is a little protection area. So every building in there is unconforming. The church, the new town building, the old town building, the shallow shaft, myself. Why is it? Because it's just a little nook. It's not this big expansive like where the rustler can have hair to the rope toe. You know, they had a big section, gold miners had a big section. Powder house is in a very tight spot. So I'm here in front of you because after I go in front of the planning commission, they're gonna come back to the town council and ask you guys to approve what they approve, or you guys get approved what they say. I'm not quite sure how that works yet. But I would like to be able to present, I'd like to go 25 feet up, just like everybody else along the road. I'm built to the north side, next to the Alta Lodge. We share a ramp. Part of that ramp's on my property. I have a verbal commitment from the ski lifts that I could build to their property line. And as if I get some feet under this, you know, I have to do a little horse trading with Mike to move the rope tow down. I want to move the ski shop to the bottom floor. So when you get off the rope tow, you walk straight in. You don't walk up 15 feet of snow and then another flight of stairs to get to the retail shop. I want the public restrooms on the bottom. I want the ski shop on the bottom and as one, as it should be. It should be the retail and the rentals as one. People from the Alta Lodge can walk straight across. They're not walking up stairs. If this thing goes through and we get legs underneath it, there would be a public elevator that brings people from that level to the road level. So then we have wheelchair access for skiers that like to use that and don't want to start at the circle of the Wildcat parking lot. So within this, hotbeds at a time, the town, Ono, everybody, that's all they wanted in the town was hotbeds. People buying lift tickets, not driving on the road, being here. I don't want residents there. I think the 3 apartments that have originally been there should stick with the original zoning and grandfathered in. Everything I do should be on a rental basis, where it's renting to skiers on a weekly basis. I think that's what makes the ski lift happy and why they want to allow me to build to their property line. So this shores me up the 10 or 11 spots I lost for people to come shop. Now I have 20, 25 people within my building renting demo skis, buying jackets and going down. There's been approvals in the past, and probably is my 10 minutes up, you guys
Well,
just.
so I was gonna say, you didn't have the opportunity to hear it because you were so fast, but, we do typically have a 3 minute.
Oh, I thought it was 10 minutes.
So, no,
Back
that's
in my
okay,
day, it
that's
was
okay.
10 minutes.
So,
But I think we
You
have,
guys bored yet? You just tell me, raise your hand, if you're bored, I'll stop.
I think we have the gist of your comments.
Okay.
You basically want to make a significant change in DPH with a number of other things, and you're going to present this to the planning commission.
Yes,
Okay,
fine.
did I get it?
What's that?
Did I get it?
You got it.
thank you.
Thank you.
3 minutes, what happened?
And I know we have one virtual commenter.
A virtual commenter, all right?
Margaret, you're up next.
Hi, I have two subjects that I wanted to address. The first one is that a month or so ago, the UFA had in their comment in the consent agenda about CPR training potentially being available to municipalities. And I would encourage the town to take them up on that, because I think for residents and employees in the town, having CPR training current for all of us would be an advantage and would help the medical staff and patrollers and everybody else if all of us were appropriately trained. The second issue I wanted to address is related to the community looking for now solutions regarding traffic congestion. And I appreciate the letter that's in front of the council right now. And I support the town of Alta so stating that they do encourage now solutions, and at least broadly saying that restoring the bus service to the 1996 levels that we had, as well as the routes that were in place at the time, would significantly help our traffic congestion. Also, we would be helped if we had the positive metering for down canyon flow for a more equitable situation between people leaving Alta and Snowbird. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Burke.
Thanks.
Are there any other public comments?
Not 3 minutes on, I'm just kidding.
All right, in that case, we'll move on. The next item is we're gonna defer Celsi Felipe and gonna move to legislative update by Shelley.
Okay. Here I am.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be up here. I had to do this virtually for a bit. It's nice to be here in person. Come up and see the place.
It's nice indeed.
Yeah. Well, the session this year was a little bit different because we had a new speaker, Mike Schultz. He's very assertive and made his presence felt very much. And they did what they did last session in terms of getting the red meat bills out very early in the session. This year's transgenders bill, seem to have one every year, passed in the first 11 days. And so they've been trying to get the controversial bills out early so they don't suck up a lot of time during the whole legislative session, just take up all the air in the room. It's good politics, I mean, it's shrewd politics, but I'm not sure it's good lawmaking because everything's done in such a rush. Doesn't allow for a lot of input or consideration. Anyway, speaking of rush, I thought based on the past that they couldn't pass more than 500 bills in a session. There was just no carrying capacity for more than that, but this year they passed almost 600 bills. Something like 591 bills. It was crazy. A number of legislators are not coming back next year. Generally speaking, the House turns over about 25 or 30% every year, and it looks like that'll happen again this year. Your state senator, Kirk Cullimore, is not up this year because senators' terms are for 4 years. But Galen Benyon, your representative, has to run every 2 years, so she's up. And she has a Republican opponent, and her district is kind of purple, but she works really hard, and so I kind of think she'll be reelected, and she cares a lot about Alta. Whenever I talk to her, she really pitches in, and she's very concerned about the town of Alta. One big departure from the Senate is Senator Kurt Bramble. You may have heard of him. He's even got a verb attached to his name, to get brambled. That's when you get really torn apart in front of a committee by Senator Bramble. He's a force of nature and his absence will be felt. He has done a lot of big stuff as well as brambling people from time to time. You're fortunate in two ways on Capitol Hill. One, you have the Utah League of Cities and Towns, which really watches out for small municipalities like Alta. And second, you have Chris. Chris stays on top of things and comes down to the legislative policy committee meetings, and anyway, he keeps track of things. Let me go into some of the specific bills that may concern you. The first is House Bill 488, which some fear might have funding for the gondola in it. Friends of Alta were particularly concerned about that. In fact, there was no money in that bill for the gondola. Senator Kurt Fullamore, the sponsor of the bill, told me that to my face, and I've always found him to be a straight shooter. Plus, he said that on the floor of the Senate when he was presenting the bill. So he's very much on record as saying there's no money in the gondola. I mean, in the bill for the gondola. Plus, I've read the bill. Indeed, there is no money in the bill for the gondola. What the bill does is it changes the money that goes into the Cottonwood Canyons Transportation Investment Fund from a flat $20 million a year to approximately that much money this year, but in the form of a percentage of certain sales tax funds. So it has the capacity to grow over time, which is a good thing. But what there is in the bill in terms of what it can be used for is traction control at the base of the canyons, particularly on bad weather days, which is a really good thing. As I'm sure you're much more aware than I am. And also there's some money for a transmobility hub north of Big Cottonwood Canyon. But again, there's no money for the gondola. Never was. There was never a version of the bill that had any money in it for the gondola. That's still very controversial on Capitol Hill. The gondola, Chris is nodding. So anyway, there were a couple of bills that dealt with critical infrastructure, which is just another name for gravel pits. Critical infrastructure, pretty fancy name. I would have thought it would be hospitals or something like that. But anyway, the worst of the two bills was clearly HB 502. In its original form, it would have allowed gravel pits to be just about anywhere, no matter what the municipality wanted. Fortunately, Alta sits on granite, not gravel. And so you don't have any possibility of having a gravel pit in your town. Although there are other mining issues here, I'm sure. But after a lot of good work by the Utah League of Cities and Towns, it turned into a study bill. And the book is going to be led by the Division of Oil, Gas and Mining. So they're going to spend the summer talking about gravel pits. And then we'll come back and see what the bill is like next year. I'm sure it'll be what the gravel companies want because the legislators care what the gravel companies want. And then we'll fight the whole fight all over again. Senate Bill 91 has a new process for what you have to go through in order to increase the compensation of executive municipal officers, which are defined as the town manager or chief administrative officer, their deputy, the town attorney, the head of a town department or division, and their deputy. Before adopting a budget that increases the compensation of any one of these, you have to hold a special public hearing, though it can be done in conjunction with other public hearings. It doesn't have to be a standalone public hearing or anything like that. Senate Bill 185, Residential Building Inspection Amendments, is another bill that ended up in a much better place than it started. It started out with contractors being able to hire their own building inspectors. And I'm sure you can see the difficulties that would present. But again, the league went to work and a number of other people went to work. And it ended up with, if the town is unable to do a building inspection within 3 days, a contractor can choose from an inspector on a list created and approved by the town. And then the town pays the inspector, but is not liable for anything that inspector inspects. And the inspector on that list, the inspectors on that list can be building inspectors from other municipalities or counties. So it really ended up in a fairly acceptable place. Hopefully, you're doing your building inspections within 3 days or within a period of time acceptable to the contractor. Sometimes the contractor says, oh, I'm not gonna be ready in 3 days, can you go in 4? And that's acceptable. I think they solved the problem of unincorporated islands in Salt Lake County. And the bill gives, HB 330, gives unincorporated islands 3 years to incorporate as a municipality or annex into the city that surrounds them. If you've ever seen a map of Salt Lake County and their unincorporated areas, they've got just these little islands, exactly. There are unincorporated. So if they don't incorporate in 3 years, they'll be annexed into the municipality that surrounds them, or the most populous municipality if they're in between two. However, there are 2 exceptions, and one is Granite, which is the community council at the base of Little Cottonwood Canyon. Since it's been a community council for many, many years, it has the choice of incorporating as a town itself, even though it's 14 islands itself. So it'd be a very unique sort of town. However, first they have to do a robust feasibility study. Each island has to vote in favor, and the whole group, 80% has to vote in favor of becoming a town or a municipality. When they gave testimony to the legislative committees, members of the community council seemed very gung-ho about incorporating into a city, although Chris tells me they flirted with the idea of incorporating the Snowbird, of annexing the Snowbird.
Wait, say anything about Snowbird?
And
Well, Chris can.
Sure, I mean, there was a point where there was some conversations about what incorporation of branding look like, sort of, just based in proximity where they are. Potentially looking at Snowbird as an option in the next, but I don't think that one.
No.
Right, Snowbird would be annexed into Granite.
Essentially, that was what we heard.
Yeah, but they have to go willingly, right?
Yes, the whole thing is.
Servitude.
Yes, right.
We don't need that.
Right.
I've heard that.
But if the facts are there, once they do the feasibility study, to support with being a separate city, I think they may end up being as their own municipality, even though it'd be a very strange, non-contiguous municipality. I want to call your attention to a bill that may not have been on your radar. That's House Bill 491, data privacy amendments. It doesn't really put new requirements on towns for how they handle data. That's what the sponsor claimed anyway. He said there's nothing new in this bill, it just puts it all in one place. But a lot of it feels really new. And it's gonna be somewhat overwhelming the first time you read it. It outlines how you should be handling public data, specifies that you must inform the public why you are asking for data, what you're gonna do with it, and states you must inform individuals if you have a breach. I'm not gonna try to summarize it any further because my eyes glaze over. I tried to discuss it. But I brought a copy of it with me and I have put a yellow line next to the lines that are of particular interest. So I'm gonna give that to, okay.
And I think we are aware of that one.
Oh, good.
We've sort of taken it into account. We don't handle a whole lot of public data, but.
Oh, good.
Handle some, so.
Good. Anyway, those are the bills that I have identified as being of special interest to you. Do you have any others that you were?
Shall I ask you a question, if you have made that on it? If you can talk about the armed guardians in schools.
Mike, we need to mic you.
Or you just repeat the question.
Okay. Mike asked about armed personnel in schools. Did I get that right?
Right. Well, they gave teachers the ability to carry guns in schools if they're properly trained. And that's the extent of what I know about that at this point. I don't know about other armed guardians in schools.
It's a lot deeper.
Okay. I can certainly write up something for you on it. I'll do that and email it to you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't have the supervisor. Anything else?
I guess Mike. I'm always up trying to make sure there's nothing in there that'll hurt us. Should I be looking for things that will help us? And if so, what might they be?
Well, we have done things for you to help you in the past.
Yeah.
And if you can ever identify something like that, we'd be delighted. Alta is a very sympathetic client. People are always like, Alta, oh.
And we'd like to utilize that.
Yes.
On HB 488, the traction control, which is this per annum $20 million. Was that specifically for both canyons then?
It's not $20 million to be used for traction control.
No, I know,
It's for both
it's
canyons.
a subset of that 20 million.
Yeah, it's like $400,000, I think, but
Okay.
it's for both canyons, yes, it is.
Thanks.
Mhm. But yes, if you can think of anything to help you, we did something with your retirement of your public safety personnel a few years ago. But anything, you've got a special tax break. It's a hold harmless to your sales tax,
To the distribution
to
formula.
the distribution formula, right? You've got that. We've got that preserved for you a few years ago. But anything at all, just call me.
How about an appropriation?
Got that right?
This was what they call an underwear and socks year. Like,
I like
you get underwear and socks.
No, my sock drawer was looking a little further this morning.
Appropriations for cities and towns are not possible to get. I've never tried, but I've watched other people try and they've never succeeded.
No.
Because they say, well, just raise your taxes. You can get more money, just raise your taxes.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
Anyway,
Okay, any other?
but call me soon. I mean, don't wait until January to call me because you have to get things out of drafting and find a sponsor and all of that. And we have, I mean, Kurt Cullimore is a member of leadership in the Senate. He's your state senator. So we've had members of leadership for a long time. Dwayne Niederhauser was your senator for a while, and so Alta has a lot of political squat when it comes to things they need.
Any other questions from our online players? Craig or Elise or John? John?
Yeah, just to say thank you for such a comprehensive review of the session, and it was super interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll send you a paragraph about that.
Thank you.
Guns in schools tomorrow or afternoon.
Okay, thanks a lot for coming up, Shelley.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy the scenery.
Yes, very much. It's beautiful up here. It's prettier than Sugar House.
Prettier than Sugar House. Okay, Chelsea, is she available?
I think it's gonna be a bit before she joins.
Yeah, okay, so let's go to Mike Bond.
How are you today? Do you want me to talk about the ski area and my letter, or do you want to?
Let's talk about the ski area and we'll defer the letter discussion until later.
Great. So we're down to 11 days left of operations for this season. It's been a good, strong season. Appropriate balance. We like this level of snowfall. Had great skiing experiences and much more manageable than the last season. Our revenues are strong. They're gonna be better than last season. Coming out of this season. We are working with Mike Maury on how do we manage a little better in our last day. of the season and looking at some strategies to try to temper it just a little bit or make sure that we have appropriate measures in place to deal with emergencies or problems that may occur in or as fire lane and traffic and getting people in and out about that. But other than that, you know, we're going forward with getting ready for that summer. We have the day after we close, we said would be our employee appreciation day. Then we will start into our summer mode and we talked, I think the last council meeting, we talked about some of the things we were doing here for the summer. So we don't have much more than that. Do you have any questions for us?
Apparently you're gonna start plowing the summer road, a week after the closure, is that right?
That's correct.
So it'll be Monday, whatever that Monday is, and.
We'll be plowing a road from all the way to the top of Sugarloaf. So that we can plow out the site for the new patrol building and start getting it dried out.
And, how long do you expect to, how long will I'll ask this directly. When are we gonna be able to drive to our house?
I don't have the answer to that question yet. So, we haven't discussed opening the summer road till normal time later.
Yeah.
On that, so, we haven't had any other discussion beyond that. But as far as, would you be able to drive to your road? Probably it'd be dried out in a few weeks.
2 weeks, okay?
Spring touring though, people will be out around the mountain.
Yeah,
Or you
go-
can shut- you can shut down.
after about a week for us to tear down, but now we'll be open to, we'll go back to. Now it's open to the public for touring, hiking, backpacking, skiing, whatever, I mean, whatever they want.
Great. Any other questions? John, you're up.
Nope, it's all good with me.
Okay. Okay. Elise, you probably are. Oh, and Carolyn's with us now. Good, great.
She joined us right at the beginning of the meeting.
She did. I just didn't see her up there. All right, but we do not yet have Chelsea, is that correct?
She's gonna join around 5:30.
Oh, all right, which is in an hour. So, all right, so let's go to the, let's see, the department reports and questions regarding there. Well, we got pages and pages and nobody has any questions. It must be pretty easy to digest.
I don't know that I would agree with that statement. However, having read through it, I didn't come up with anything. The shuttle, Delta that we had, do we feel good about that, you think, as far as, you know, running 2 shuttles till the end?
Yeah, so looking back at the department report and what we knew about, funding shortage. I think the picture has changed a little bit in the meantime, and the math is confusing to me, but. So we were short, on the order of $7,000.
Yeah.
$5,000 of that we've given up on collecting. That was a contribution from one of the lodges that gave last year for the first time, decided not to contribute. It's kind of a long story. And then there were some smaller amounts from some of the residential properties that have contributed for a long time and a lot of the folks who contributed to the shuttle for like 12 years would not pay until literally the following November. So I feel pretty good about our sort of collection record. But anyways, we've taken in most of it. It leaves a shortage of a couple $1,000s. We've made some adjustments, the night shuttle will stop running, or has stopped running. And they've cut back the number of vans during the day to 1, which, it's pretty safe to say we can get by with 1 during the last couple weeks of the season. So there is a question I think Roger's gonna bring up when we get to the actual budget amendment, of whether we can pitch in an additional like $2,400 total, perhaps between a couple entities, one of which being the town, to keep that 1 daytime band running during the final week of the season. So long story short, we've got 1 band running during the day now. sort of combining both day services, and we may be able to have it run through the final week of the season.
Cool, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, okay. You said what I was gonna say, so here we are. Go ahead, John.
Just one thing to note about the shuttle. I rode it a couple times this year, more than I have in the past. And boy, Saturday mornings, you get on that thing, it is packed. Is there any way to manage it with a little more deference to, high demand periods? Seems like we're kind of having the same program every day, and it's probably fine 60% of the days. And but the weekend days, it's a bit of a struggle. So
I've received that comment from other people, John, as well, asking that same question.
That's a great point, John. Yeah, I mean, it used to be that there was a period of time a few years ago where the ski bus service had shorter headways during peak times, and then it went back to a half hour or something in the middle of the day, if I recall correctly. So I think it is probably just a question of having additional van during peak times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's, I think that might be sort of pending whatever the market can provide. If that's out, if it's Alta Shuttle, if it's some other contractor, I think it may depend to some extent on what resources the vendor can bring to bear. But we can certainly write that into an RFP as we work on that. It's a great point, though. Yeah.
Basically, what you want is increased service at peak times. Word.
You stand at that bus stop for a while, and it can be as much as 30 minutes if you just miss it. And then if it comes and is full, it's a pretty discouraging experience.
Right.
Yeah, there's a bunch of collection off the bypass road on good powder days with the shortage of the UTA option, which people were using regularly before.
Right.
Everything's converged onto the shuttles.
It used to be if you skied the bus run and you had a pass, you could get on the UTA bus for free, but the UTA bus doesn't come anymore.
Yeah.
Free pass is not very valuable under those circumstances. As I said last time, UTA is committed to providing us a plan at the end of this month as to what they're going to do next year, in particular with the 953 line. So we'll stand by and see what happens. Any other questions or comments concerning the department reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the consent agenda. And what else is the consent agenda and a special town council meeting on March 13th? These are you're asking for approval of the minutes, correct?
I'm asking for approval of the minutes from the special March 5th council meeting. That was the one where you talked about the resolution
Yeah.
on the EIS. And then also the March 13th regular town council meeting minutes.
Okay. So I move that we approve both the March 5th special town council meeting minutes and the March 13th town council minutes.
I second that motion.
Okay.
And the finance reports, we're going to approve those separately.
Oh.
And the finance reports.
And the finance report, sorry, yes.
Reading your script.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Oh. Dan already seconded it.
Oh.
So,
Nuts.
any discussion? In that case, all in favor of approving the consent agenda all in favor of approving the minutes for the March 5th special town council meeting, the March 13th special town council meeting, and the finance reports, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, the mayor's report. I suspect you could predict what will be in my astronomy report this time. And speaking of predictions, the ability to predict eclipses has been around for a very long time. In fact, 6,000 years ago, some eager, ambitious people started keeping very careful records. And these I would describe as the Jen Clancy's of the Babylonian era. And what they discovered, oh, and incidentally, they kept the records not on some gadget like this, but chiseling them into stone tablets. So they were pretty permanent. And in fact, this can still be read. So, so what they found after a long time is that there was a periodicity in these events. And this is before they even recognized that the Earth orbited the sun and the moon orbited the Earth. So they didn't really know what the mechanism was. They just wrote down what happened. And from that, they were able to make these predictions. And now this didn't occur in Babylonia too. The Chinese and the Mayans and people of North America, on a Chaco Canyon petroglyph, one can find representative of a solar eclipse in 1097. So how do we know it was in 1097? Because they also put a little spot in the wall where Venus was. So you can work backwards and say, which eclipse did have Venus in this spot? So with this discovery, they were able to extrapolate into the future what would happen in terms of eclipses. Turns out that an eclipse will come back to the same spot on the Earth every 375 years, which, you know, don't really expect that. But you really don't have to wait that long, because a solar eclipse will be coming to your neighborhood on an August 12th day. And if you look at this map that Molly's put up, you'll find that there's a circle right around northern Utah. Yep, right about there. My laser pointer just reflects off, so it doesn't show well. And so you won't even have to move to watch that. Trouble is, it's August 12th, 2045. So it will take a while for that to happen. Okay, moving on. The last road meeting of the year was held last week. Most of the discussion was about how well things have gone this season and how fortunate we didn't have something like last year. This informal multi-agency coordination and information body should be a model for other groups. I mean, this really works exceedingly well. And it's like, I don't know exactly how this was established, but it has evolved into a very effective body. UFA has a board of elected officials, and I have been one of them on their board. And what I have asked Carolyn to do is to be our representative on that, and we're working that direction. And I talked to Jay about that today. Chris Colley and I will be attending the Utah League of Cities and Towns mid-year conference next week. And I go to these things with the hope that by the time my term expires in 20 months or so, I'll have learned how to be a mayor. Okay, the town shuttle. Well, we've already talked about the town shuttle. And next year, there'll be a challenge in serving our community. But this is another thing that we should be proud of and really works. And it's a valuable service to the community. And the fact that, as John points out, that it's overused is an indicator that it's working. There's a recent article in the LA Times that cited a 50% increase in skier injuries over the last 7 years. And it attributed these to growing recklessness on the slopes and skiers focused on taking selfies and shooting video and that sort of thing. And the severity of the injuries is up. You see, I don't know if we have any statistics for here, but my subjective impression is there are a lot of people going very fast out there. Our budget committee met on March 26th to take a crack at a tentative FY 24-25 budget. In general, our revenues will cover our expected expenses. We hope to make progress in some of those on some additional capital improvements. And our next meeting will be May 8th at 4 p.m. But I want to go back to the eclipse. At least one member present here, at least virtually, attended that in person. Craig, you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I will say it was a spectacular event. You guys can hear me, right?
Oh, yes.
It was a spectacular event because the eclipse duration was over 3 minutes where I was. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of cloud cover, but I'm really happy. Actually, there's a lot of cloud cover, but miraculously at the period for the totality, it was clear almost the entire time. So the corona, which I think is the most spectacular part of watching the eclipse, was really very visible. And we had a great time.
Cool.
Cool. So I
also witnessed it firsthand,
where were you?
North Carolina.
Oh, you were. Okay. You want to say anything about
It was not as spectacular there.
it?
But it was still great to see. We went up to Wyoming for the one in 2017. It was good to see.
Okay. Did you have cloud cover?
No, it was clear skies.
But were you in the range in the totality?
No, 85.
Oh, man. 99% and 100% are quite different.
Yeah. That's why it wasn't that spectacular.
Yeah, right. Okay, moving on, have we gotten to Shelley yet?
Chelsea?
Chelsea.
She's
Yes,
still
we
up
have
there.
to.
Yeah, 5:30.
Sorry,
She's gonna
my
step-
computer.
yeah, she's going.
We'll let you know when she's here.
All right, good. All right, gone through the mayor's report. How about a budget committee update?
Yes. Chris prepared, we worked on a great presentation.
Cool. You be able to pull it up?
I am.
Thanks, Molly. So, the first thing I'll say about the FY 25 budget process, not to start with the negatives, is we are a little behind. And I think that's okay. We have a first budget committee meeting on March 29th, which is certainly late for having a first budget committee meeting. But in that spirit, we're a little behind in figuring out what was appropriate to share with the council today. So this is basically a Reader's Digest version of the slide deck and the discussion that we had at the budget committee meeting. And I know a couple of council members, or at least one of the council members who's not present in the budget committee meeting, went ahead and reviewed the recording of that meeting. So I think that most of this will not be new for you all. Four kind of main buckets to discuss in terms of our thinking about the budget for next year and how we're developing it. We'll talk a little bit about the general fund revenue projections we are making as of now. We'll talk about wages. We talked a lot about wages the last couple of years. We'll talk a lot about them going forward. We'll talk about projects, capital projects, and some other projects we have in the works. And then a little bit about our outlook on the water and sewer fund budgets for next year. So revenue projections. You notice we're not projecting much of an increase in revenue. We have not identified an urgent need to raise property taxes this year or to, as we say, somewhat euphemistically, it feels like go through truth and taxation. We don't project a significant increase in sales tax next year. there are some changes in some of the other, you could say sundry revenues that we're projecting. We're projecting more building permit fees than last year. I don't know what else goes into the increase, 19% increase in general town services for next year. But by and large, we're looking at a similar revenue year for next year. Some of the key assumptions, again, we have not identified an urgent need to raise property taxes, but there are some policy questions to chew on. In as far as like saving for future capital improvements, and so forth, before we can know that for sure. One big change is that we took in about $115,000 from UTA and kind of the liquidation of the ACVB checking account for the town shuttle last year. And we definitely won't get 65 from the ACVB checking account. And we're assuming we won't get 50,000 from UTA. That's up in the air. They may make another contribution to the town shuttle, but we're not assuming we'll collect it. It's a sneak peek of the capital projects plan for next year. Some highlights. You see, we have still have $75,000 for facilities master plan next year. We are making good progress on completing an RFP and a scope of work to solicit a consultant for that project. One thing to note is that we, at this point, assume we're wrapping up a Tom Moore historic structure report, or HSR, into that project. That's kind of an off-the-shelf evaluation or structural analysis and feasibility study of a historical structure that we would wrap in. It would be hopefully a small scope item given the magnitude of that structure. So that's a big ticket item. New website. You'll see a new Alta Marshal's Office truck in there. So that is under the assumption that we will hire a fifth or a fourth full-time deputy, a fifth full-time police officer next year. And then some other sort of minor items on there. A couple of things to note beyond that. We do continue to have this $3 million amount that we moved into fiscal year 27 on there. It's most likely that a new building, whether that's a community center or some other building, would be more than $3 million, but lacking a more educated cost estimate. We don't have another to put in there. So we'll be thinking as we go through this budget process of whether we ought to be saving more or projecting more given what we know. And then you'll see in fiscal year 26, we have another amount, kind of a placeholder based on costs for similar projects for us in the recent past to do another phase of facility planning work. That would be like an architectural feasibility study or a design project about one single facility. So a couple other things, sort of irons in the fire. We do have funding in the fiscal year 24 budget to hire consultants to do a water and sewer master plan. We have an RFP that we're putting finishing touches on. We may be able to release that as early as Monday of next week. We think we can award a contract hopefully within 6 weeks. Clearly the funds for this project will not be fully expended in fiscal year 24. We may bill an invoice if we can get a contractor on board and really working on the project before the end of the fiscal year. So we will have to adjust the enterprise fund plans and budgets for this fiscal year and next fiscal year to reflect that. We are taking back up the charge of finding major water and sewer capital projects to do in the next couple of years, maybe summer 2026. The best we can do for the time being is to take up the list of projects contained in the 2024 Forest Green Capital Improvement Plan that was done 10 years ago. We assume that costs could be as much as twice what they were estimated to be in 2024. There are a couple projects that kind of rise to the top of the list for us to consider. One would be a pipe replacement down near Hellgate. Another would be kind of the centerpiece of the big loop system concept, which I suppose that maybe we haven't really discussed with the council in detail recently. But at any rate, we're starting to open back up the concept of finding a project to begin moving towards for next summer. And we do assume that we're going to complete the remote meter installs during the upcoming fiscal year, and potentially even as soon as by the time the snow plus in the fall of 2024. Facilities master plan. Yeah, we're hoping to roll that out, an RFP out in time for it to inform the budget and for the council to review a scope of work as part of the budget process. Like I said before, we'd like that to include an analysis of the Tom Moore toilet. And then finally, we talked a little bit about the town shuttle. We're working on RFP primarily to get a budget number for what it's going to cost. We're going to propose that folks tell us what it would take to provide a similar service to this year. There's some big, question marks out there still, such as that question of whether we'll get a contribution from UTA and also what the UTA service will entail. So anyways, those are just some major items I wanted to highlight for you.
Is that everything? No, so go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. So wages, yeah, you can go on to the next slide, Molly. So
Could I just applaud for a moment that you're taking back up the water and sewer projects, and I'm really excited to see that that's actually happening, and I hope you guys could knock one or two of them out before Roger and I are done.
thank you, John.
I too am excited about that is before we die. Is that what you mean?
You know, or leave the council, one of the two. Right. No, thank you, Chris. I appreciate you refocusing, and that makes a big difference. It's hard for me to be generating these budget surpluses and all these reserve funds and not spend the money. You know, I think it would be great if we could spend the money, more effectively, and it seems like you're on the road to that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, John, and it also helps our planning, right? It helps us think about future rate increases if those are going to be necessary, and so there's plenty of value. There's lots of value in taking up projects in the short term while the master plans proceed. So yeah, thanks for the motivation. So on to wages. It's a significant chunk of the town budget. More than half the town budget is paying full-time employees, part-time employees. We had a pretty sophisticated wage study done last year. We added some new communities to our list of comparables, primarily a couple communities and other entities in the Wasatch Front metro area, such as Unified Police Department. On the right is a chart that pulls from that actual 15 tab spreadsheet. The blue lines indicate the survey minimum and maximum for what our comparable entities are paying people with paying job titles with similar job values to job titles at the town of Alta, if that makes sense. And then the yellow diamonds are where individuals with those job titles sit within that range currently. Go ahead, Jen.
And if there's, a department like the marshal's department, it's an average of all of those wages, just
Gotcha.
so.
Yeah, thanks. That's a key point, yeah. So we set about a kind of a phased implementation of the results of this wage study last year. Last year, the goal was to bring all employees of the town up to the bottom of the range at least. And the goal for this fiscal year, the upcoming fiscal year, or perhaps a series of fiscal years, was to bring employees up to the appropriate position in the range based on their time and position and performance. So when we get down to, I believe, the next slide, we'll see what the impacts of that are. And then finally, we're assuming a 3.2% COLA. I mean, that's interesting to consider in light of the jobs report or inflation, stuff in the news today about how inflation year over year is actually more like 3.4 or 3.5%. But at any rate, our assumption for budgeting as of now is 3.2% cost of living increase. So, this is a first stab at, a payroll budget for next year. Down below, a couple things I'll point out. The Alta Marshals Department, you know, we have 8 full-time employees in the Alta Marshals Department, so that's always the biggest chunk of our payroll budget. This does assume that we are budgeting to hire, a 5th police officer or a 4th full-time deputy. There's a difference between base wages, and then wages that go in the budget. So base wages are based on scheduled hours, and then budget wages are, assume a cushion for unscheduled overtime, sort of based on how it's worked out, historically, past years or historically. So you can see there are some significant variances, from last year in that kind of bottom right-hand column, and these mostly reflect, what it takes to bring people, to adjust pay rates based on time and position and performance, and in a couple of cases to get people with certain job titles up to the minimum point in the range who have not made it there yet. So there are some big numbers there, and that's going to have a substantial impact on the budget next year. Water and sewer funds. So, you know, what I would draw your attention to is the rate increases. You know, Jen can speak a lot more to how our ECU program works. But we do have, we're on sort of a path that has been charted the last couple of years and sort of a steady rate increase program. So we're looking at a 13% increase in water rates for next year over this year, and a 24% increase in the sewer rate for next year over this year. And I have a lot more work to do to dig into some of the rate increase projections that John Byrne and Jen and Craig and all of you have worked on over the last couple of years, but we are on sort of a progressive rate increase plan to begin to collect enough revenue to be able to improve our infrastructure. So Jen, I don't know if you want to say anything else about water and sewer budgets or rate increases for next year.
I mean, you have the highlights. I think, you know, there's a lot of numbers up on the screen in front of us. I think they're really, you know, the ECU system in determining rates is really quite simple.
Yes.
In the town. So what you want to look at on the water side is we have 253.85 ECUs. So what you do when you're trying to determine what your rate is you take the total amount of water that you need to sell, the revenue that you need to bring in, which is that $330,000 number, and you divide it by the ECUs. And then you get the annual rate, and then you know, I included a lot of numbers in, well, maybe it's a different spreadsheet, but we bill or we charge on a monthly basis, we send invoices out quarterly. So I think people sometimes think of those numbers in different time frames, and so I like to provide all of that information. But basically, I mean, the rate would go for a single family. Actually, sorry, the rate for one ECU will go from 94.37 to 108.34. That's the 13% increase.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more, the numbers are a little bit more because a single family home is 1.25. That's on a different slide. That's not in this presentation, but that's how simple it is to generate these numbers. Unless anybody has any questions. I do want to point out that
I do think it's important to note that with these rates, in the water fund, we'll be adding to the water fund reserve something on the order of $100,000, $110,000.
That's correct, John. Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
So that's cool. That's good. You know, we're continuing to fund the water fund. We've actually managed to spend some of the water fund reserve, and we did the big project over to Peruvian Estates. And so when you think about the 13% rate increase, you have to sort of temper that with the fact that we are actually adding $100,000 to the reserve fund. So
right, and we also have that $30,000 charge now that we're paying back to the general fund. That's included in this. You know, so those are some items.
And that'll come out of that 100.
No, that's the line item.
That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then right before I wanted to point out I kept the overage rate increase at 20%, but I'd love feedback from the council on if you'd like to increase that. one of the reasons why, that number is a little bit higher than the rate increase is, I think, when we a couple of years ago equalized the charging of water between the residential and the, commercial. We felt that the commercial was probably gonna take a bigger hit in that. And so we kind of softened the blow of the overages with the anticipation that those were kind of gonna build up over time. So, I haven't changed that number, but if the budget committee or the council feels like we should keep increasing that, let me know.
It's a curiosity on my
Yeah.
part, but not enough, longevity, cause I feel it's more like a 15 to 20 year horizon, and I haven't been here that long. That, maybe I defer to John, cause I know John spent some time looking at this some more, and maybe the mayor has too. That for water and sewer, it's one of the areas that I felt, those are areas of concern over the long haul based on how structures were implemented in the early days of the town. And so I think this $100,000, buffer is good for us. Do we feel collectively, you people with more time here on the planet, at least as far as this town goes, that we need some more of that? We need a bigger buffer? John, while we're here in a public forum, we can talk about it. I think it's a good thing to bring up. Because I do worry about sewer and water infrastructure over the long haul.
Yeah, it's a very different story with the sewer. The sewer rates that Jen's showing you only add like $10,000 to the sewer fund reserve. So there's a big army aircraft taking off over me here. The so the water fund we basically have about 100 grand of funds that'll flow into the capital reserve. You don't actually reserve separately for enterprise funds. You just have the money in their main account. You have it separate, dedicated, but we track how much the access balance is. With the sewer, we're not doing much to help the sewer fund at all here. We're basically just sort of pricing it based on our expectations of increase in expenditures, like actual sort of operating expenditures. And the last one that we updated, which was a while ago, it was only generating $13,000 for the sewer fund using this rate structure. So I think if there was a question, it would be, do we want to be reserving more like 100 grand in the sewer fund like we do in the water fund? And I'm not sure we're there yet, because historically we've had very few sewer fund expenses. Someday that's going to change, probably pretty dramatically. So I'm all for having a rainy day fund in the sewer world, but I would say we shouldn't change this rate structure until Chris finishes the utility master plan study, and we determine what the real sewer fund need is going to be going forward. We've had a lot more insight into what the water fund is going to need going forward, because we had the 2014 study, and we've just sort of continued to rely on that. But there is no comparable study for the sewer fund. So I think Chris is on the right track pursuing that. And I would expect that we're going to probably want to reserve more money, but until we know, we're just sticking with the 10 grand a year for the sewer and 100 grand-ish for the water fund.
Yeah, that was the spirit of my question. Now, Chris, do you need that? I agree. Of course, I don't have anything to disagree with, except for if it's a big airplane, it's not an Army airplane, just so you know. That answers the spirit of my question, because we've got some margin there anyway. There is some buffer already. So, all right, cool.
The sewer fund has has a decent balance, actually. It's like $500,000, isn't it, Jim?
It's getting close to that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was balancing that 24% rate increase with, I think it's just under 7,000 actually that's going into capital improvement for the sewer. So I was just kind of trying to.
Yeah, I wasn't advocating that we throw another 10% on top of this, on the FY25, sewer increase. I just wanted to, for me, it's about the health of our infrastructure over the long haul. That's all I was.
Yeah. Resilience is important, and particularly the water, because the water includes fire capability. We got this great $1 million fire truck, but we don't have enough water supply throughout the town. And so I think that's why working on the water system has historically sort of been a little bit of a priority over the sewer, because the sewer's just kind of so far been, we put it in and it really hasn't required a lot of work. But the sewer fund was at $580,000 when we started this fiscal year, so and I don't, to my knowledge, we've never had a significant expenditure in the sewer fund since we put the system in.
Of course, it will come someday. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I just had one more slide, and I'm sorry this is taking longer than maybe we assumed. I think we're basically right on track for the timeline. So, I just want to summarize a few key points and decisions that we need to make or policies we need to consider here going forward. So like I said, we have not identified an urgent need to raise revenue for next year. But you know, we certainly have some major, if not super well defined, expenses on the horizon, especially major capital improvements to our buildings. Namely replacing at least one, if not two buildings at some point in the next several years, let's say. We don't have a policy on how much we should save annually toward a new building. But if we were to make one, it may, we may need to talk about whether we, how much revenue we should plan to contribute to the capital projects fund for next year. There's a subsequent question to that, or a related question that has a little bit more to do with short-term expenses, and that is how much the town should just spend to maintain buildings that are, you know, quote unquote depreciated.
Fully depreciated.
And I mean fully depreciated. Yeah. Two of our three buildings are, you know, fully depreciated, to say the least. So we'll be talking about that going forward in the next couple of budget committee meetings and in our next two council meetings. Like I said, I have more homework to do to understand whether the rate increases that are in the offing for the upcoming fiscal year, or the upcoming couple of fiscal years, are going to be enough to fund the projects that we've worked with service area number 3 and Keith, the former director of the service area, to identify as potential projects that we could do over the next 2 summers. I don't necessarily want to get into that right now, but I have more homework to do. I'm sure there are others who would need less homework to testify to that. Wages and pay and the future of pay progression. So are we going to make this one big step in fiscal year 25, which is what we've been assuming? If we do, whether or not we do, are we going to have a step program for future wage increases? A lot of entities have kind of a progressive step program so that you know what, or you can project what you'll get paid in future years. And that's always, you know, subject to budget and appropriations and everything that's going on. But that is the way it works. And some of the entities would be with, particularly police departments, I would say. I want to point out, I've heard some feedback about, it came up in the budget committee meeting. I think that you, Dan, asked, how is the town manager's performance evaluated and compensation determined? And that is by the town council. That is kind of a separate matter from the way the rest of it gets determined. And the way the rest of it gets determined is that supervisors assess, you know, time and position and performance and make a recommendation. We consider how that goes in the budget, and then the budget gets deliberated and eventually adopted, and then that comes back to the employees. But the town manager's compensation under town manager ordinance, which is, you know, about a year old, is up to the town council. So I take that seriously. I haven't made as much progress on figuring out what to propose to you in terms of a performance evaluation program and compensation setting program for the town manager, but it's on my short-term to-do list, and I do take that really seriously. So I appreciate you all discussing it, and I've had the opportunity to talk about it with a few in the meantime, so. We have a budget committee meeting on April 16th, that's Monday of next week, Tuesday of next week, and then April 29th.
I thought we 86, the one on the 16th, and we did the one on the 29th because you needed more.
No, doing both.
We are doing both?
Yeah, we have three.
Damn it, okay.
Sorry, that is kind of our typical,
But it's 1400, 2 o'clock.
They're both at 2, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Mm.
And then the outlook for the town council is that, we typically adopt a tentative budget in the May council meeting. And then in June, when the council meeting, moves to that third week of the month, we adopt a final budget, and that will be pending, a decision to go through truth and taxation.
And I think it will be June 20th.
June 20th, I apologize.
Oh, yes. And just to add, you know, the truth in taxation is, while we haven't been, working it into our documents yet, it is on the table. So, right, well, no, I mean, like, I've set things up with the county for us to be able to do that, so should we choose to, so
Should we
that's.
choose to, yeah.
Right,
got
so
it.
that opportunity will be available until, like, June 19th. When we either adopt if you think you're going through truth and taxation, it's actually a tentative budget in June, so.
Right.
And then you have the final one in August.
Thanks.
I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that.
Right, you get a couple extra months if you're doing the truth and taxation approach, and you can't really do it before then because you don't have the number from the county, right?
Right, I get that number like the second week of June, and so that's why that meeting is a little bit later, so that I have at least a week or so to work with those numbers.
I have just a small general comment on the process and the questions here. And that is, you know, I think we all have this sort of an gut feeling that we're gonna need to have more money because we're gonna need to replace a building. But I think you're gonna have a hard time, at least with me and maybe some of the rest of us, continuing to push for more revenue when we're not. I don't think there's been a year yet that we've spent 50% of the money that we've reserved. And, you know, the reserve money comes from, you know, excess revenue over expenses. So, you know, I'm not for reducing the taxes and seeing less reserving, but if we're going to try to increase the tax revenue with the hope of growing the reserve faster, I think there needs to be a little bit more tangible. Is tangibility a word? It needs to be a little more tangible. What we're going to spend the money on, because it's kind of like a big black box at this point. We really don't have a great idea of how we're going to spend I think by the end of the year, we're going to have $4 or $5 million in aggregate reserve across all of our funds. So I'm reluctant to see us push for more revenue until we're ready to start spending the money, you know, currently. It's my
I think the balance to that is, the balance to your observation is that we need to just start executing more money that we have collected in our plan and expediting our plan where possible. Plans.
Every time I bring up, let's give the money back, Dan says, let's figure out how to spend it. And I think that's probably right. Dan's probably got the right view, and I just enjoy prodding him, but yeah, it's hard to, we need to spend the money. We need to start seeing the money go out the door before we push for more reserve, I think.
Yeah,
Craig,
the reason
comment on that?
my default is that because we're here to provide the best support to our town, you know, and the community that we can. And I think we've got some great ideas, but I'm also the least experienced person in this conversation.
Yes, John, I do have a couple of comments, which is, I think our ability to spend is a function of a couple things. One is the capacity of the staff and the skill of the staff. And I think we've taken a step change with that with the addition of the second Chris this year. But I think it's not just about the money, it's about where is the money going to be spent and how is it going to be spent? You know, small projects actually probably consume a lot more of our bandwidth
than one or two large projects. And so I think in addition to projecting, not just the dollar amount, because you're looking at the total reserve number, we actually have to look at, well, what are the nature, even without a specific number for example, for replacing the buildings, we know we have to replace the buildings. And I think we can need to project that from a manpower basis. And if we do that from a manpower basis, then I think we'll be dealing with your gap on the execution side that you're rightly worried about.
Thank you. Good comment.
Thanks, John. Craig, I appreciate both those comments.
Any further discussion? This is really the budget committee update. So we're still there.
Yeah, and I apologize if this feels like duplicative. I just thought it was important that given the timing and that our next meeting is usually our tentative budget adoption meeting, that the full council have an opportunity to ponder some of this stuff.
Yeah, good report. Okay, let's move on to discussion possible action resolution 2024 R10 to adopt April amendments to the 2024 budgets.
Would you like me, I did provide a brief summary of the amendment changes. Do you want me to review that, or has everybody looked at that? I mean, we tried to keep it pretty minor, not too many changes. I mean, in that, not necessarily the amount, but.
Is this where you're queuing me to talk about the additional funds for the last week of the shuttle?
We could, yes, I mean, we can also talk about that. I didn't know if you wanted an overview summary first.
No, let's do the overbills.
This was an excellent summary. I don't know whether you can see that.
No.
Yes, so.
This was an excellent summary that you sent out on this subject.
Yeah, it was great.
Right, so the highlights here really are, one of the changes is actually having a revenue code specifically for the shuttle instead of lumping it in with other stuff. I think it's a lot more transparent and clear and easier for everybody to understand. So that was one of the changes. And then on the expense side of things, obviously we have a new category as well for what did I call it? Wage corrections for the marshals department. So that's a big line item there. And then these changes result in, because you have to zero out the budget, I had to make an adjustment to compensate for them in the capital projects fund. And so that kind of trickles down. So, and there was a couple small other things in the capital projects fund, which is part of these 4 budgets that get approved at once. What was it? There was 3 things. There was an equipment change for the live scan system. And then I also adjusted the generator project to match what we actually spent because we went a little over budget. So instead of doing that at the end of the year, I did it now. And then we moved the summer playground project into FY25 instead of 24 because we don't feel like we're gonna get that done. And Roger, does have some suggestions for some changes to this for today that he would like to propose.
Okay, and that has to do with something we discussed, which is the town shuttle and extending the town shuttle for another week until the end of until the list close. And I've talked to Tom Schneider about it. Costs roughly $2,400 to do that for that additional week. And Mike Mon has offered to match what we would put in dollar for dollar. So on that basis, I would like to propose we amend this budget to include the and unfortunately, it's not exactly $2,200. It's a little bit more than that. So shall we amend it to say $1,250?
If you'd like to do that.
Okay.
The numbers that I generated will be off then, so I'll have to redo those, but.
All right, can we just move to incorporate Jen's number?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Saves for any other.
Yes. Okay, and I'm Mike, your credit with us is good.
Send me a bill.
Alright. Okay.
What's the dollar figure? Real quick,
Well,
or do we need it? I was gonna put it here so we
so
can make the
what's
motion.
what's gonna happen? The dollar figure, he said he wants it to be 2450.
Yeah.
Would be added.
Would it make
To,
sense to handle that as a separate resolution, just have a resolution to increase the budget by the 2,400, and then we can also just go about approving your budget?
I think,
Or
I think it's
the other way
actually
around,
cleaner-
maybe?
I think it's cleaner to actually do it all as one and you're just approving it
Okay.
with the new numbers.
Cause then it goes into the meeting notes for next month and it's already covered.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
So, yeah,
so what's the appropriate resolution to make here?
let me look at what I gave you, because I didn't copy that for myself and it'll make it easier actually. Okay, so what we'll want to do in the revenue section is we will want to increase line number 1036,830. The budget shows 204,470. And what we're gonna do is quick math here, that's gonna be 720, right, Roger? Is my math right? I'm adding $50 to that number?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're gonna change that value to
205,
205,
720.
720. And then, the expense side of things will. Actually, sorry, that number is only gonna go up by $25 because it's only half.
Okay, but the revenues go up by $25.
The expense line is gonna go up by 50. This is only gonna go up by 25 because we're splitting it, right. So, I think if you guys if somebody wanted to make a motion to just incorporate that with those numbers. Hopefully and then the trickle through that happens based on the capital projects fund changes and stuff. If you guys are comfortable with that, I'm comfortable with that.
I so move.
Yeah,
Okay.
I move. Okay, cool.
Second. Perfect. Well done. Any further discussion?
I didn't log who first and seconded.
I
That was in
moved,
transit.
John seconded, and we're ready to
Okay,
vote.
roll call.
Roll call.
Yes, because it's a resolution. Let's start with, Councilmember Schilling,
Yes.
Mayor Burke,
Yes.
Councilmember Byrne,
Yes.
Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
and Councilmember Morgan.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Motion passes. All right, I think we are,
Thank you, sorry that got.
Item 11.
excuse me?
So that was R10.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and now we'll go to discussion and possible action to adopt resolution 2024-R-11 to adopt an updated projects plan for the 2024 budget. So really, we've basically gotten this presentation from Chris, have we not?
Yep.
Oh, that's Chris.
No, that's not what we were.
Okay, all right.
Just looking at.
So when when you adopt a new budget, we always have a corresponding project plan that goes with it.
I see.
And so this is kind of hand in hand, so it's recording it in both places. So it's
Okay.
the same numbers you just approved, really essentially, but it's just a different document, and just to keep things really clean, we do them both at the same time. So that's why this is before you.
Okay. So is there any
And that's
further
this one
discussion?
that's 205, Article A 205. That the 24 capital project plan summary.
What's the 205, John?
It's page 205 with I think the capital plan is now 5 pages long and this is on page 2.
Oh, yes, this is, it's the whole series of documents,
Yeah.
but
Or attached to R11.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
You're looking at where you are paid, that is where the changes are, yes.
cool. Great. Looks good to me.
All right, I move that we adopt resolution 2024-R-11, to update our project plan for FY 2024 budgets.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
I'll do a roll call.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mayor Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye. Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
and Councilmember Schilling.
yes.
Thank you, the motion passes.
Okay, next resolution has to do with appointment of a to an expired post on the planning commission. And Dave Abraham has served in that position for several years. One of the rules we have for our planning commission is that there are particular areas of expertise that are designated, and one of them is architecture. And Dave is an architect and has considerable experience up here. And so while his appointment expired last month, I would like to reappoint him to that position, and we need the concurrence of the town council to do that. I've talked to him, he's interested. I've talked to the chairman.
He is on the call, by the way.
Oh, he is? Oh, well, in that case, maybe he could speak to his interests.
Hi, everybody. I know a lot of the faces in the room, but some faces I don't know. But Chris pinned me down, and we figured out with using the power of archived emails. It looks like I've been on the planning commission for about 9 years. Chris, is that what we rolled into? But yeah, so happy to do I guess might be a third term, and really think it's an important position and have the experience to do it, and appreciate this body for all the work that they do, and good to see everybody working hard.
And I want to add that Dave really does bring his expertise to bear on the planning commission. He's got firsthand experience with what applicants go through when they apply for, land use permit or go through the zoning process. He knows what architects respond to when they look at zoning ordinances. He knows what planning. Dave was appointed in 2015. He took the place of Jan Streipel, who'd been on the planning commission since like 1990 or something like that. As sort of, and as a planner and landscape architect in the, Wasatch Front region of note. So it's a great lineage, and Dave fills that seat quite ably. So thanks, Roger, and thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. I couldn't echo Chris's comments more strongly. I had a whole bunch of nice things figured out to say about Dave, but since he's here, I'm going to skip it.
Flatter me, John. I'm right here to listen to it all.
No, he brings a lot of wisdom to those meetings, and having watched the last, I don't know, all of them since I've been elected, Dave brings a lot to those meetings and is a voice of reason, and we're lucky to have Dave, and so we really appreciate you re-upping, Dave.
Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. I want to make sure I go on record as maybe, do I get to nominate Dave, or do I get to second it, or can I do something, Roger?
Why don't you have
motion?
you have the honor.
I was pulling the trigger here in like 2 seconds, so you better start.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to continue Dave Abraham's appointment to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Our resolution 2024-R-12, you wanted to say as well? She did want to say that.
Yes.
John seconded that.
Right, I seconded, we adopt R12.
Great.
Okay.
We'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
Councilmember Byrne,
Yes.
Councilmember Schilling,
Yes.
and Mayor Burke.
Yes. Okay,
Motion passes.
okay.
And Mayor Chelsea has joined if you want to.
Yes, let us do that. Let's go to, okay, we've gone through item 12. And, we'll go back now to, Chelsea's report on the Tri-Canyon Trails draft plan. So welcome, Chelsea.
Thanks.
And, tell us what it's all about.
Awesome. Thanks for having me here today, and thanks for a few of you for working with my little craziness in my schedule today. Am I able to share a screen?
You should be able to on your end, yeah.
Awesome. So, as many of you may know, the Salt Lake Ranger District of the Forest Service has been working on a Tri-Canyon Trails plan for a few years. And we have a conceptual draft out for input. So I thought I would walk through some of it with you, get us all on the same page, and let you know what we're proposing. So big picture, many of you know the Tri-Canyons are Little Cottonwood, Big Cottonwood, and Mill Creek. Those are the areas we're focused on and the connections to get into those three canyons. We started this planning process a few years ago, like in 2020, where we started collecting data from the field. We inventoried all the user-created trails by walking them and did the same with all of our Forest Service system trails and got a great understanding of their conditions. In 2022, we switched from that quantitative data collection to a qualitative data collection and did situation assessments and listening sessions where we sat down with stakeholders, partners, managers to get a better understanding of folks' concerns and values for recreation and trails in the Tri-Canyons. We took all that information plus Forest Service policy guidance from our Forest Service plan and drafted this draft. This will be open for public input, and I'll show you how to do that in a few slides through May. Then we'll take all the information we get, do some ground truthing or getting out in the field this summer and looking at possible trail alignments. And next winter, spring, we'll release a final plan. That final plan will, of course, have way more details. It will talk about our phased implementation schedule, how the projects will go through NEPA, and bigger details on maintenance and such. Okay, so back to this draft plan that we released. We heard loud and clear from everyone, including the forest, that everyone's concerned with the environment. We want to make sure we protect the watershed, have healthy ecosystems. And we know as an agency with recreation as one of our biggest focuses here, that we can do that by protecting wildlife, plants, and scenery, thinking about how we concentrate visitors at destinations that can handle those kind of impacts, and making sure our trails are sustainable. We also heard that folks are concerned with their visitor experience. We want to make sure we continue to offer diverse and quality recreation opportunities ranging from hiking, biking, being in nature, taking dogs for a walk, rock climbing, etc. And then we all know that a good way to make that tough balance between recreation and resource protection is through providing different types of infrastructure. So what kind of developments such as parking, bathroom, and signage can we provide to help with that balance? So we took these three guiding principles and thought about them through three different focus areas. So one of those focus areas is the trailheads, and we broke them into three different groups. On one end is the major, big, popular trailheads like the ski resorts, White Pine, Cardiff. And then on the other end is like the real primitive trailheads like Bear Trap. And then there was this in-between spectrum that we just called minor, even though those trailheads aren't necessarily minor. The third area of focus is the trail network. We also broke that into three different types of trails to think about. Those concentrated use where we know we see a lot of people and high visitation levels. Connector trails that connect popular areas or trails that are almost connected and could create new loops or opportunities for recreation. And then, of course, the user-created trails. What are we going to do with those? Which ones should we adopt? Which ones should we remove, etc.? And then that third area of focus is different recreation strategies to reduce visitor conflicts. Think about where e-bikes might belong or not. Think about what summer recreation could look like at the ski resorts and how we might reimagine winter recreation opportunities that exist in the Tri-Canyons. So those were the big picture areas we thought about throughout this draft plan. Through the past month, we did hold some public meetings so people could come in and talk to us. And then we're continuing to hold these kind of stakeholder meetings to share this information with everyone. And so instead of taking questions right now, I want to just pop over to our website to show you how we're gathering input. Did my screen change or do I need to change how I'm sharing it?
We still see the PowerPoint.
Okay, thanks. So Forest Service joined the 21st century, and we're doing this on a hopefully friendly website. So we have a story map, which you can move through the general information. It reviews those guiding principles we went through, talks about those 3 focus areas, and then provides an opportunity to give input for each of those independently. So it talks about our trailheads, and then you can go through our survey, which are interactive maps, to provide input. You can do the same for the trails we've proposed. And as you look through these maps, please know the proposed trails are conceptual. They're not actual alignments. The proposed lines aren't in the exact locations. They're just to give an idea of where we're proposing these trails. We want to make sure there's support and momentum for these trails before we spend the time to go out on the ground and create those actual alignments. So if you click into these go-to buttons, it'll take you to an interactive map where you can see the different trails we're proposing. And you can zoom in and zoom out and see the different canyons and move around. And then if you actually click on the trail, it'll pull up a little pop-up window with a little more information of the desired outcome for such a trail. And then over here to the side is where you could provide some input for us. And we're very intentionally keeping this opportunity to provide input open for several months because we're really excited to hear from everyone. We realize collectively we have a lot of information about these canyons we care so much about, but that's collectively, so we really are excited to hear from everyone. And so just to review, a lot of these, most folks are interested in the trails. We know that we're missing some big picture maintenance projects or reroutes on certain trails, but what we're proposing in this draft are some of the bigger changes. The final draft will have more of the maintenance details. And then one more opportunity to share. If you go to our website, that tricanyontrails.org, are you guys seeing that, or did my screen not change again?
Yeah.
Okay. If you can see that we're on the engage page, and there's either an opportunity to click into the draft plan or to click on the story map. Can you guys see that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you click on this draft plan, it's the longer 50-page version with a lot more details than I just went through with a story map. And that draft plan has a deeper explanation and walks through all of the guiding principles for everything we proposed. Okay, now, are there any questions?
Well, of course, to be very parochial, we're most interested in what's exactly you have in this plan in and close to Alta. Can you highlight that?
Some of it,
Okay.
there's much more detail going through the plan. But a lot of stuff just around Alta. A big one is formalizing that Cardiff Pass, making it a more sustainable trail instead of a spider web or network of trails, just making one good one. Still utilizing the bigger roads, the bigger impacts that currently exist. We'll see some of these higher ridgeline trails, adopt those and make those more sustainable. A lot of the user-created trails exist and are already connecting people, but we'd like to do it via one trail. Where the areas have 4 or 5, we'd like to just adopt one and make it sustainable. And then put it on good maps so people know how to get around. And then help make that trail up to Secret Lake a little more obvious and easy to follow. For a lot of us, we know exactly where we're going, but as more and more people come to the Alta area, make it easy for them to get to where they're going instead of wandering off or creating different spider web trails. And then you'll see this throughout the plan if you look outside Alta is we know people want to walk around the lakes, which is awesome, right? They're beautiful and they don't get to get in them. So help create a sustainable trail around the lakes that creates the opportunity, but at the same time doesn't exactly invite them to get in. So those are
Chelsea, can I ask a question? Is there a budget allocated to the Tri-Canyon project?
so we'll have more financial details in the final plan.
Okay.
So that phase implementation will have probably 3 different phases. And of course, phase 1 will have more detail in it, some maintenance costs, some budget costs, but also some opportunities for partners to help with some of those costs and help with trails. So we'll have like an estimate of some things, but knowing that partners are a big part of some of this work, we won't have like the total cost, knowing what the Forest Service versus partners can help with.
And one other question, are the canyons weighted pretty equally, like thirds, or is that based on like foot traffic on these and impact already, or where do we fall in that sort of spectrum? Can you tell us?
If you just look at it like this, big picture, you can see there's a lot more in Big Cottonwood, but we do know Big Cottonwood sees about 1.5 million visitors a year. And it has, the landscape is a little more generous for trails where you can see like this northern piece of Little Cottonwood is just too steep to hold a lot of trails. So if you look at the trails that we're proposing, they might look a little unequal that way, but I think that like matches up with the visitation and the opportunity for trails.
What is our visitation? Do you know what those numbers are?
I'm not sure for Little. We were just having a big forest conversation about numbers, and we were all surprised with how big the Big Cottonwood visitation was.
I think historically, we've had more winter visitors in Little Cottonwood and fewer summer visitors. And I think it really is about there are far fewer developed trailheads, there are fewer primitive trailheads, there are fewer trail miles. It's really all concentrated out here at the ski areas in Little Cottonwood. There's more capital W wilderness, like there's a greater percentage of the land area, the forest land in the Cottonwoods is wilderness than in Big Cotton.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and you can, to like highlight what Chris was saying, these darker green areas are the wilderness areas. And then of course the ski resorts are more over here. And then the topography here just north of the road is just really steep. That doesn't lend to very good trail making.
Thanks, Chelsea. Really, really helpful.
Yes, indeed. Let's capture this, webpage, on our webpage.
Yeah, please share it. We're gonna keep this opportunity to gather input through all of May. So like June 1st, it'll probably close so that we can start assessing it and ground truthing it. So please share it in any way possible. We're really excited to hear from everyone.
Okay, any other questions? No.
And
Also members.
any questions at any point, feel free to send them my way.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this
All right,
opportunity.
thanks for coming. All right, let's move to, the fireworks resolution. So this is item 13, discussion possible action to adopt R 2024-R-13 fireworks, which, short summary is we don't want them.
We got it. That was a good letter. It was supported by a great letter from our representation.
From Jay.
Yeah,
right.
Jay, it was good. It was easy. Conclusion.
Right. So, I open up for discussion, this, resolution.
Do we move it and second?
Oh, yeah, let's do
I
that.
move that we adopt resolution 2024-R-13 regarding fireworks. That was written.
I second it. Oh, John beat. Discussion. Let's have a short sentence.
We adopt this every year, and I know the fireworks thing is kind of a weird industry, and Utah's got a little different thing going on. But is it possible to just adopt something, or is this something we have to do every year?
As far as I know, the answer is the latter.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to double check and see if anything changed. I'm all for adopting this.
Okay.
And is there a definition of a firework?
Oh, what constitutes?
Well, it's in there. It's outlined by
Well, it's a firecracker, for instance, a firework.
Yeah, and those things that
fine.
people step on and make a ton of noise with.
I can't answer that question.
Nor can I.
The fireworks are a class C and they're defined in state code, but it's basically the commercial type that are available in Utah.
Commercial, but private citizens can purchase them, Cameron.
Yes, so class C does not include like the large event, not retail commercial, right? It doesn't include the specialized larger fireworks. Class C is only the sort of common user retail level.
So it means that people can't, that are renting homes up here, whatever, they cannot use fireworks. Like
that's correct.
Any of the like little things that you purchase.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. One question I have is clearly there's an exemption for the lift company to set off the fireworks on, what is it, New Year's Eve?
Yes.
Those are the other class is the higher class.
Yeah, okay.
That's correct. That would not be affected by this. It's those are a different class of fireworks, and those are covered by a different commercial license under state code.
And this also covers the period, it stops short of that, Cameron, I think. I didn't print the letter because I read it and I agreed with it, but I think it just covers, it goes from the beginning of the season, the fire season, to the end of the fire season, basically, correct?
Okay.
Okay,
well,
I think so, yes.
In that case, I guess we're ready to call the question.
No, it's roll call.
Roll call.
Member
Yes.
Councilmember Shaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Burr,
Yes.
Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
and Councilmember Morgan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, next item is discussion of possible action to join a letter to UDOT about SR 210 from businesses and other entities in the Alta community. So, Mike, you want to come up and give us a rundown of what the status of that is?
Right, there've been a few, formatting and minor editing changes that were made since the copy that you have. Other than that, we have, I think every major business in the town of Alta has signed on as a supporter of this letter to go. We're ready to send it out to UDOT tomorrow morning. It would go to, Robert Stewart is the director of UDOT Region 2. Been working with Devin Wetter on where it should go and providing a email address and a mailing address for people that want to comment on the letter. Our intent is to send this to UDOT tomorrow. And then probably within a week after that, we will share the letter with our pass holders, employees in the town of Alta, and residents, and share with them the email address or the mailing address for UDOT if someone else would like to comment and express their views or whatever. So there's really three things in the letter that we're asking UDOT to address that are not, they weren't really addressed in the UDOT EIS. One being the traffic congestion created at Seward by the way traffic merges and the roadside parking that does the U-turns. Second one being the impact that closure of the main line has on traffic exiting Alta when it's closed. And then the impact of a traction law that's not currently enforced. And asking you to address those three items. And then we provided some potential solutions for their consideration to really just kind of start the discussion with them. And as you know, here are some ideas that could work or potentially work. Let's talk about it and let's see if we can find a solution. That's the intent of what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring some attention to it. You know, as we talked before, there's some funds out there to address some of this. And we think some of these options we presented could be applied without going through another EIS process. Others, some of them would require an EIS process. And, you know, they range from how you could do a traction law to, you know, trying to get us to the point that traffic leaving Alta could merge the low entry one before it merges with any snowbird traffic, and whether it's another lane or traffic lights. So there's a variety of ways to go after that. But we're really trying to focus on here are the three issues. And here are some ideas. What can we do? What can we work out? Trying to get some attention to it.
I mean, the short form is we're trying to address the red snake problem.
Yeah, in summary, we're trying to address it. Yeah, and they're all elements that contribute to the red snake. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to address the red snake, correct? Right. That's why I call it the red snake letter.
Okay, the red snake letter. All right, discussion.
I mentioned to Roger and John that I fully support your letter. I think, Mike, you're trying to start something here and keep it going. And although there may be parts of it that we may have some reservations about, I think that we should really support your letter, sir. I really appreciate your starting something and continuing through, and especially addressing funding and using the town to help address funding.
Thank you.
I agree with everything Carolyn just said, and honestly, that's almost exactly what I was going to say. I think it's good to be starting the soup. While I don't love every single thing in the 5 pages of instructions, you know, the basic 2-pager that's the sort of lays out the the basic goals, I think is terrific. And I think we should, as a council, take this opportunity to support our most important constituent or most significant constituent, as well as the other businesses that are signing on too. So I think this is in our best interest, and I'd like to see us allow our logo to be used on page 2.
So are you looking for us to have our logo appear or have the signatures of the 5 of us appear?
We're just putting, right now, we're looking at, we put the logo of the business and then a name underneath it, like says Alta Square, like not, type of the deal, or Cliff Lodge, Cliff Curry, president. So just, I think last time we did this was about a year ago. We just had the town of Alta logo and mayor was authorized, said the mayor, Roger Burke. So whatever you feel is appropriate, we can put in there.
Right, we could just have the logo if we wanted to.
You could just have the logo.
That might be the easiest for us.
But Dan,
I think to be thematically consistent, it might be a benefit to have the mayor's signature on there. If we've got the primary individuals from each of the other vested parties. And I agree, but you've got the unanimous support, from, I think, all of us. I can't speak for Lise because she hasn't said anything yet, but I suspect that she's in line. And I agree. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that we have to cover, and I think this is a good way to get things started. My only concern that I'm sensitive to, I feel it's a little Cottonwood Canyon problem, not a divided Powder Ridge problem. So I'd like to try and incorporate those people from down Canyon when we can, but it doesn't change anything we're doing here. We're just trying to get it going.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of movement.
like a red snake.
And I'm
Yes.
hoping that the way we can engage them is, a week from now, when we reach out to the broader community, that they'll elect to weigh in. To comment on what we're.
Yeah, right. These other parties that do have vested interest in this. I'll be really interested to hear when you have the chance to come back to us, the response, or anything that starts to make movement from the people who are addressing it too. Because that's really what this is about, getting them involved.
They kind of know this is coming.
Of course.
I've had some, had discussions with UDOT and, we've reached out and said, we're gonna send you this. And they said fine, and they've provided us the email address for people to comment, and so. Yeah.
And the traction in particular, I just think that's it's an easy win to start trying to get some success and alleviate a little bit of pressure. Anyway. That's all I got.
Any movement on any one of these would be a good thing.
Absolutely, 100%. 2% change is huge.
So Elise, you haven't weighed in. You want to say anything?
I support the town, signing on, adding our logo, whatever it is we need to do to accompany the town businesses. I think this is important to a lot of our employees and residents.
Great. So let me ask, I think we have pretty unanimity here that we're going to support this undertaking. And the question I had, shall it be with the Town of Alta logo only, or the Town of Alta logo and the signature of the mayor?
So we're not really collecting signatures.
Oh, you're not?
We're just putting, so like it would say, like last time it said Town of Alta logo and just says Roger Burke Mayor typed under it.
I see.
And it could say Town of Alta Town Council.
I think that's just what I was gonna say. I think it could say, have our logo and then say, Alta Town Council underneath it, or just Town Council underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we should pressure Roger into personally signing it. It's a little bit too specific, you know what I mean? I think this is a council decision to support our constituent, and I think that council should be the one, town council, Alta Town Council.
And the reason I agree is I think it should have something under it, just other than the logo. Because it infers something if there's a body attached to the logo. And so if we don't want to throw Roger under the bus, let's throw town council on it. We can all jump on the bus.
Yeah, you
And-
could also say as approved on today's date, you could say Alta Town Council as approved on 4/10/24. You want?
I don't even think you have to do that. I think
I don't think, I think it would be
that's
the
over.
logo.
And then just
out
Alta Town Council. That's
below.
what I would
Yeah.
suggest.
Alpha Council?
Yeah,
Yeah.
why don't you put that, yeah, I think you put that on there.
I like that better than.
Good
Having
decision,
these.
everybody. That's a
Mike,
good
did you
decision.
send those some edits?
So my edits, yeah. You got a copy.
Well, eventually, yes. I just didn't know if you could describe the edits to the council.
Well, it was mostly it was just paragraphing, cleaning up how everything aligned and everything. I rearranged the priority of which one I put as number one. So number one is dealing with the entry points of Snowbird and the roadside parking. Number two issue brought up is the main line, and number three was the traction devices. I just changed their order a little bit. And then we had some spelling and some grammatical errors and things that we had cleaned up. And then just formatting so that everything lined up.
Well, you'll circulate that, we'll all get
We will
the final version.
we will send a, yeah, you will receive a copy of the final version.
I think actually for the town too, we should be, I think there should be at least a mechanism where at least your office goes through that, and looks at that letter. Yeah.
My office is right here. What do you want them to do?
Look at it.
You want to look at this document?
Is that the final copy?
What was the previous order? Now you have, the merge,
I think traction law was the first one before.
the thing about traction law is probably it's gonna be the easiest to implement.
Well, yeah, it's, we're not saying to prioritize or anything, we just switched to it.
Okay.
So.
We appreciate the opportunity to participate, Mike. Thank you for giving us the chance to sign this letter.
Yeah, well, we appreciate, well, it's a community issue that affects us all.
Oh, of course.
And you know, and so I think the more unity we show in bringing the issue to UDOT, the more likely we have maybe having something change.
Well, by incorporating the town, it becomes, it moves from just a private enterprise matter to an actual civic matter.
Yeah.
And that hopefully will add some value and weight.
And we'll see where this goes initially. We may want to reach out at some point in time and have a one-on-one with, you know, our senator and our representative in the state legislature. So we're just gonna kind of take these first few steps and then see what happens.
Yeah, and your plan would be to lead that charge.
Yes, if it does, we may want to have the mayor come along and participate in that meeting if we have that.
Okay. So, all right, well, I would like to move that we incorporate our logo with underneath which it says the Alta Town Council in the letter that Mike has drafted.
I second that.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, do we want to take a roll call?
You don't need to, but you can.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, unanimous.
Thank you. So we'll send you do you want to have a chance to review this tonight, or do you want to just get a copy of it?
Up to our clerk.
I'll take it. I mean, if that's an extra copy of the final one. I guess what I'd be most interested in is, do you need our logo?
No, it's on there on the second page. I just,
He's already put it in.
I have. So actually, that's right. Is that the correct one?
That's close, yeah.
We
can
get
We can get you something that's a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you later?
Do you want me to send that to you directly or anybody else?
Just me.
You. And then can we get an official final
Yes.
copy tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
Is that great?
We'll send out a copy. Everybody will need that.
Oh. This is great.
Okay, yes, next is any new business by any members of the council?
I've read sticky binder.
Yeah, you sure do.
I know.
Can I add a reminder about tomorrow being John Cahill Day?
Ah, yes, please do.
That's my reminder.
All right.
Wait, it's tomorrow?
Well, it's on Dale Day.
Oh.
Tomorrow, yes, is the 11th, and it's John Cahill's 100th birthday. And is there any sort of public event or quasi-public event that goes with it?
I believe the Peruvian is hosting some party. I'm not sure who's invited and who isn't.
All right.
But the town is going to,
Well, we acknowledged him last round
yes,
and declared tomorrow John Cahill Day.
yeah.
All right.
Mayor, if I could jump in really quick.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, the fireworks resolution does prohibit fireworks all year, not just during the summer. So there are 4 days, July 4th, July 24th, New Year's Eve, and the Chinese New Year. So you can modify that if you only want it to be during the fire season, but the resolution as it's written is all year.
That's a good resolution in my opinion.
Me too. I like it.
Okay, I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, I misread that. Pay no attention to the guy in the blue shirt.
Thanks.
But it doesn't preclude the fireworks that we all enjoy that the resort puts on. It's just private citizens.
That's
It does
correct.
not.
Okay. All right. Anyone like to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I second. Second. All right. We don't have to have a roll call. All right. All in favor of adjourning? Adjourn.
Aye.
Hi.
See y'all later. All right.
Elise, that's a great photo. Hold on.
Good job, everybody.
Baldy.